Welcome back, my friends. Episode 27 of the Suited Kings podcast. Is that right? 27?
I think so. I don't actually know, but I admire the confidence you have that we're right about that.
I think 2 episodes ago I said it was 25, so quarter of a century, remember?
Yeah, you did.
Or was that last episode?
No, that was because that was the
Rich
Triton,
or Rich. Or Triton.
which
Yeah,
came
there
in
was one
between the interviews. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm getting old, man. My brain deteriorating.
You know, you make fun of me for being in diapers, but maybe you'll be back in diapers soon.
Damn it. Well played, sir. Well played. I am super excited to introduce a new format we have coming up in preparation for the World Series of Poker, Mr. Wes. The WSOP prep, we're going to call it WSOP prep, and it's going to be maybe, I'm not exactly sure yet, maybe 5 to 6 episodes we'll do here between now and when the World Series starts this summer, where we kind of go over a bunch of different topics to help anyone who's listening study and get ready for a successful World Series of Poker.
Yeah, I think it's important to start doing this stuff now. I know I've told a few people, and maybe we even mentioned it on the podcast, that you know people like wonder, oh, what should I do to prepare for the World Series? And for the most part, it's similar to any other tournament. But the biggest thing I say is start now. You know, don't wait till a week or two before you head out to Vegas. Like, if you want to really fine-tune some parts of your game, it's good to get started a little early and just keep going over time so you can really solidify a few things in your game.
I agree with all that. I do want to disagree slightly on that it's the same as all other tournaments. Every time I leave Vegas, I'm like, wow, I need more work. And a lot of times when I'm playing local tournaments, I do always think that way, but the World Series of Poker, the type of opponents I'm playing against, I realize typically are just so much better. Obviously, there's a lot of all-around type players from, amateurs to well-experienced, but I feel like you're just going to run into the best of the best more frequently out there.
You will. At the higher end of
even in the
playing field.
Even
in kind of the lower buy-ins.
But more specifically deeper in the lower buy-ins. You might have a lot more recreationals earlier on in the tournaments, but, the better players typically will make it deeper more frequently.
I agree with that. Yeah, that's fair to say. So it's not, I wouldn't say it's exactly the same as other tournaments, but
it will get tougher as you get deeper.
Yes. There are a lot of similarities, and then, you'll have all those very good players, especially when you're in stuff like, Millie Maker Monster Stack, 1500 type stuff. Sometimes I will say, for those of you who are playing the Gladiator,
just get out of the way.
Yeah, some of the lower buy-ins I would say are very soft. But yeah, I think most of our listeners are planning to play. So get that smirk off your face. Jesus.
I'm just thinking about the World Series of Poker, Wes.
Yeah. No, me too. I'm happy about it. So most of the stuff that our listeners are going to play and that you and I are going to play is going to be in that 3K and below range.
Yep.
Maybe the main event too, but we'll probably do a whole separate episode on that, I would think.
I think we should. I think that'll be one I definitely look forward to. So yeah, we'll make that its own episode. But on today's episode, we're going to focus on 20 big blind play. So, not necessarily just on 20 big blinds, but in that range. And then we're going to do it from a theoretical perspective. So not necessarily a hand that has already been played that we're going to discuss, but we're going to look at playing around that stack depth in different scenarios. Say you're on the bubble or there's no ICM implications and you're earlier in the tournament. Mm-hmm. We're going to look at how you can play this stack depth with certain hands and how it's going to differentiate between what part of the tournament you're in. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, super important. I know there's been a little bit of discussion about this stuff in our Discord. And I think 20 big blinds is so important because no matter what tournament you're in, even if you win the tournament, at some point you'll probably be at or below 20 big blinds. Or if you're not, even if you're sun running the whole way, your opponents plenty of them will be at 20 big blinds and below. And so you will be playing 20 big blinds effective against a 20 big blind stack, even if you have 80.
Yeah, exactly. So it's important to realize this is not necessarily if just you have 20 big blinds, but if you have more and your opponent has 20, so it's effectively 20.
Yep.
Another thing I want to add on to that too is that this will help outside of the World Series of Poker. For example, if you're playing one of the local Minnesota tournaments like at Running Aces or Canterbury, and you're deep into day 2 where 20 big blinds is typically the average.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Yeah, and we'll take a look at how, ICM pressure affects it. A lot of this stuff is the biggest adjustments might be pre-flop for a lot of people. I know when you are, when you're in middle position, here's an example we'll look at, you're in like hijack or something and you face a raise. When you're near the bubble or when you're at like the final two tables or something, you have to be so tight. And then we'll even look at what you would do for chip EV as well, but I think there are even some surprises for me. I didn't necessarily know all this stuff until I was getting into it, and there's still a ton more to do. But
there's always more to do for sure.
But yeah, I think this will be great for some people.
Well, let's get into the nitty gritty. Let's shuffle up.
All right. So the first spot pre-flop that I wanted to take a look at was sort of a generic, we're at 18% of the field left. And I just use that because that's what GTO Wizard has as an example. But basically, we're at a point in the tournament where most of the remaining players are going to get paid. Now, keep in mind, this is assuming that I think 12% get paid.
Okay. And you said there's 18% left?
Yeah. So if we're translating this to the World Series, where 15% get paid, you might think of this as more like 22% of the field left.
Okay.
So a lot of times people don't think about ICM adjustments until we're right on the bubble or at the final table, but you definitely want to start making some
as we approach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
you get the I love my analogies. So like put the landing gear out before you land the plane.
Yep.
we're preparing. So that's a terrible analogy. I don't know. Anyways,
it was okay. I mean, it made sense. It was just kind of lame.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'll give you that one.
Yeah. Okay. So the scenario is, we'll say like 2/3 of the remaining field will cash. We'll put it that way.
Okay.
We have 20 big blinds in the hijack, and the average stack is maybe a little bit more, like 25 bigs.
Okay.
So we're a little below average, but we're not on life support. And we'll say that under the gun,
any single hand could put us easily above average.
Yep.
Or put us down into the danger zone.
Easily. And so in this situation, we'll say under the gun raises, and under the gun has us covered. Maybe not by much. We'll say that.
Did you already say our position?
We're in hijack.
Hijack, okay.
Yep. So we're already in a position where we're up against a pretty strong range.
Mm-hmm.
And
is this 8-handed, 9-handed, we'll say?
8-handed. I should say 8. So yeah, it could be under the gun 1.
Okay.
9-handed.
Okay.
So it folds to us. Tell me what you think. And just so the listeners know, the pre-flop stuff specifically I kind of looked at, and so I'm gonna fire some questions at Max here.
All right, yeah, let's do it.
So if we look at like a hand, let's say Ace Jack offsuit, what's your thought about that?
All in. I'm just kidding. No. I honestly, so if I'm hijacking under the gun opens with Ace Jack off, as we're approaching this, I would say I'm probably just gonna fold it.
Yeah. I think that's good. And it might seem kind of tight to some people.
Yeah.
Ace Jack is a strong hand. But
yeah.
It's the sort of thing where, we don't want to go all in, really. We're getting called by hands that dominate us. Obviously, we'll get a lot of folds, too.
And my thoughts on this, the first initial thoughts I have on this is like at 20 big blind depth, I can just put myself into a lot of bad situations versus an under the gun raise. Whereas, say we were 50 or 60 big blinds deep, something like that, and not approaching the bubble, I might even this could be a 3-bet candidate as well.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's kind of my thoughts too.
I think calling is probably the worst of the plays, though.
Yeah, and actually, one good note to make here is when we're facing this under the gun raise in this spot, we don't want to flat anything.
Yeah.
We're gonna play a raise or fold strategy. Now, actually,
just because we're gonna bleed too often if we end up flatting.
Yeah, we're in a spot, and we're in a spot where presumably a couple of the stacks behind us have us covered.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a lot of incentive to squeeze, and so we don't want to have.
Yeah, the more we flat, the more incentive they have to squeeze because we're just essentially dead money at that point unless we're trapping.
Yeah, the one and I don't know this for sure, but maybe if everyone behind us is like super short.
Yeah. Or really tight or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. Like you can obviously exploit this if you think people aren't going to squeeze much.
Yeah.
What would you say, you know, as far as pocket pairs, obviously we're playing aces and kings. I mean, maybe not everyone would be aware of, but like the lowest pocket pairs, we definitely want to fold out.
Yeah, I am. So my initial thought is I have no desire to set mine on this stack, on this stack depth. So if we're playing definitely like a raise fold situation, I would say, man, gosh, my nitty brain is coming into head. I even get like nines is like oof, but tens I'm probably gonna rip.
Yeah. So
What's GTO Wizard say?
GTO Wizard is, well, it's not in agreement about the ripping because
Okay.
it wants to only raise small in this specific position, but
Interesting.
it's almost right on. It says to pure fold nines, and it says to even fold tens a little bit, but mostly raise it.
Okay, so I'm right
So
on the line.
you're actually right there.
Okay, dialed. I like that.
Yeah. And, you know, so obviously jacks, queens, kings, aces, same thing.
No, it's not jamming any of them. It's just raising.
Correct.
Man, here's the thing about this, and that and correct me if you have other thoughts on it, but like what comes to my mind in that is I know my hand is super strong here, but I think equity denial is just extra important at this point by just picking up the money and not allowing my opponent to see a flop.
Yeah, basically the idea here is, you know, so obviously like your strongest hands, aces, kings, queens, you don't want to shove those, or you want to like try and get more value with those. And the idea is like when you have a hand like tens or, you know, maybe ace queen off,
Is it about balancing it?
it's not, well, it kind of is about balance, but it's also just those hands won't be profitable as a jam just because of the range against the specifically under the gun.
Okay.
It's close. I would find myself probably jamming like jacks and ace king off. You know what I mean?
Definitely like ace king off again,
But according to the solver world, it's slightly better to go with the small raise.
Yeah. I think it's also important to notice that the solver expects that our opponent is playing perfectly.
It does, yeah. I don't think it would be a big mistake to just rip, you know, tens, jacks,
Right.
ace, king off, maybe ace, queen off. And then, but
This is good to talk about though, because I really think that viewing it from these other standpoints instead of just jamming really opens up my mind a lot on the possibilities other than instead of keeping it just black and white. You know what I mean?
yeah, well, and yeah, like I said, like I would before I looked at this, I would have probably said the same thing. And then, and it's not that we can't, if the opener is in later position and then we're in later position, it's not that we can't rip 20 big blinds.
Okay.
Or if it's for chip EV, we can just rip 20 big blinds, but there's a little bit more incentive with our weaker hands to want to be able to raise fold them.
Okay.
And then obviously those strongest hands are going to do better getting more chips in.
I know our situation here is that we're approaching the bubble. We're not quite near, on the bubble yet. Are we waiting to talk about if this is like a non-ICM situation?
Yeah, we'll take a look at that.
Okay.
In a bit here.
Okay.
The last thing I was going to ask about that spot is, what do you think? Well, two things. One, what raise size are you using? And two, what are your like bluff type of hands that you're raising with?
Man, okay. Well, here's the thing. I will add bluffs if it's not an all-in type bet. I feel like a lot of times I'm just going to be, again, as I said earlier, is like looking for just the full 3-bet squeeze all-in spots. If I did have a raise size on 20 big blinds, just to not pot commit myself, especially if I have bluffs in my range, I'll probably go with like a 2.4.
Yeah, so like 4.8 bigs,
Yeah.
assuming we're
like
up against-
2.4x of the original open.
Yeah, I
Does
like
that. Seems okay? Okay.
Yeah.
And then, so that's with my nutted hands. And then hands that I would probably have like bluffs with here is, like the European aces, like ace 5, ace 4 suited, things like that. I'm trying to think if that might go all the way down to like king 4 suited or something like that.
I think there are times when that's the case. Against under the gun, it's going to be probably a little bit tighter. But I like where your head's like. There are situations especially with ICM on the line, where you can just raise the king 6, king 5 suited. You know, obviously, we all know about the ace 5, ace 4 suited type stuff.
Yeah. That's been a lot more popularized ever since what's his name won the main event. I can't think of his name.
Which
anymore.
year? Which
Probably 2 years ago.
Epson Jorstad?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Espen
Don't
Jorstad.
even-
Yeah, so like
can't even
I
say
just
it.
watched a lot of videos with him where he like someone was giving him shit about, you know, like, oh, you probably have ace 4 suited. Yeah, I know you're going all in. Like,
Yeah.
So it's something like that, or even Martin
Jacobson?
Jacobson.
Jacobson.
Yeah,
That dude owned me in the Millie Maker.
Yeah.
Just one hand.
I think we talked about that in the first episode.
We didn't. I think we recorded one that we never released.
Oh, is
But
that where we
Yeah,
talked
because it
about it?
wasn't the Gladiator.
That was a
but
great hand. I would like to talk about that sometime.
we should bring that one back. That was
He melted your face, right?
He did, but also I think I played it correctly against him specifically.
Okay. Yeah, so I think there's a few bluffs in there. Whether or not I actually have those in person, this is like, I'm glad I understand that concept, but in reality, it's probably going to be a lot less of a percentage happening than what GTO Wizard says I should do.
Yeah, and so actually, you know, when we look at what they want to bluff, again, reminder here, we're facing an under the gun raise. We're in hijack, 20 big blinds. You mostly want to fold all the suited aces after like ace jack, but you once in a while want to raise small. And in this case, it's using 4.5 big, so just 2.25x.
Okay.
And then, yeah, some like king jack suited, king 10 suited, even king jack off. Just some, it's more, I think it's more of a thing of having the double blocker. You know, the
Okay.
king and jack are, they're both good blockers. And when you have like ace 7 suited, it's.
I want to kind of clarify on why I'm using the smaller sizing compared to a larger sizing, and you can agree or disagree. But
Yep.
I think we would be sizing up dependent on the depth of our stack. So being at 20 big blinds, essentially going 2.2 to 2.25 to 2.4x as a 3-bet, compared to going like 3x or more. We still remain stack depth by using that size.
When we have to raise fold, we have still plenty of chip. You know, we're not.
Yeah.
And
we still accomplish the same thing.
we accomplish the same thing, and also our opponent, even if they have us covered, they still feel ICM pressure. So when we raise small, it puts the same pressure on them as if we were deeper and we raised 3x. You know, if they're playing correctly, they can't afford to just call and see a flop with like a couple suited gappers or something.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
even I think people think they're getting such a good price, but think about it in terms of chips rather than your actual dollar EV, you know, your ICM value.
And I want to clarify, say I did have ace 5 suited or king 5 suited here. Those are going straight into the muck if I get ripped on, if I get 4-bet jammed on by the under the gun raiser, or anybody for that matter. Whereas it's balanced if I have aces, kings, queens, and jacks, and occasionally 10s. I plan on calling off with those hands.
Yeah, exactly. And so the last thing we'll look
But ace
at,
5 suited into the muck, guys. Remember that.
Yes.
I know you
You
want to
don't
call
call
off.
it off.
I know you want to call off with that hand, but don't.
I think a lot of them would find the fold.
Yeah, I hope so.
Some of these kids. No,
Have you played on global recently or online recently?
I have had a couple times where I'll like 4-bet rip and someone calls off 30 bigs with ace 5 suited, and I'm like, I don't think you understand.
with ace 5 off. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I don't think you understood why that hand is good. You know what I mean?
Well, a lot of people don't actually. A lot of people have the surface level information on those. I mean, we're not going to get in this too much, but like ace 5 suited, they're like, oh, this is hands we can just get it in and run equities, but it's really not. It's a good bluff hand, but it's not a great all in. Let's see, you know, how we're doing by the river.
Yes, 100%. So let's say we do 3-bet and we get ripped on. So it folds back to under the gun and they rip on us. Pretty much like you said, yeah, we should be, when we have the pocket pairs 10s plus, we should be calling those off. And then ace king, but ace queen even should be in the muck at that point.
Ace queen, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
See, that I struggle with that a little bit more, and I think a lot more people will. That's a really great point to bring up, is ace queen. Putting that in the muck after 3-betting it on less than 20 big blinds. A lot of people are like, well, here we are. I have 20 big blinds. Like, what else?
Yeah, I'll only have like 15.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Which is almost essentially the same stack. You still have the exact same amount of fold equity. Like,
Yeah, you're looking for a 3-bet squeeze at that point, or a you know.
Are you 3-bet jamming ace queen off?
So instinctively, a lot of times I would, but after doing some of this studying in this sort of spot, I don't think I am.
Interesting. That's a good
Without
one to keep in mind.
ICM, yes, I think ace queen off.
Without ICM. Okay, so that's a great. We'll talk about that more then.
Yeah, let's do that. We can because I did take a look at what the what the chip EV version of this would be, and it's kind of as I alluded to, and it's not that surprising. Like, we can be a lot looser in that sort of situation.
When there's no ICM, you're saying?
Yeah, when there's no ICM. So let's say under the gun decides to open, and then we're in hijack. We're still not going to be doing a lot of, or we're still not going to be doing any flatting, I should say. At this stack depth, you mostly want to. You really only want to flat if you're like in the blinds or late position.
Again, to clarify, this is no ICM we're talking about now.
Yeah,
Whereas the whole previous section was talking about approaching the bubble where there's ICM in play.
Yep. So yeah, well, let's say you have 20 bigs and there's half the field left, or you're early on, whatever.
Essentially, we're still trying to build at this point, not really worried about busting or getting the stack.
Yeah. So at this point, you still actually are probably a little tighter than you'd think, but you can jam a lot of hands.
Okay.
Like you said, ace queen and ace king are perfect for that.
What did you preface this with before? We're still not. You said what were you saying before that, or do you remember?
About flatting?
Yeah, about flatting.
Yeah. So we're still not really flatting anything. Again, you can deviate from this if you think all your opponents behind you are just passive.
Yeah.
But in to play correctly, you want to not flat when you're in earlier position and you're this short, because there are just so many people behind you who can squeeze. If you're in later position or you're in the blinds, you can get away with it more.
Okay.
With suited, maybe a weak suited ace or higher suited connectors.
Suited king?
Some of them probably.
I just wanted to throw
yeah.
Okay.
Good job. So proud of you.
Thanks.
And then you do want to balance it with stuff like pocket aces too.
Okay.
When you're on like the button or cutoff and you have 20 bigs, definitely look to flat aces some of the time.
I'm excited to start kind of throwing some of this in the mix a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, we're gonna bring out the guns of this World Series.
All right, so let's see. What kind of hands are you jamming? No ICM, 20 big blinds. You're in the hijack, early position.
I think the bottom of my range is going to be like 8-6-0. No. Okay, hands I'm jamming. From under the gun opens, I'm in hijack, 20 big blinds, no ICM implications. What's the bottom of my jamming range?
Mm-hmm. Let's say, what's the worst pair you're jamming, and what's the worst?
I think my range in pairs would probably jump down to 7s.
Mm-hmm.
And then the worst non-paired hand would probably be ace queen off.
Okay. And then any other suited hands?
Maybe some like jack queen suiteds.
Okay.
I'm curious about this. So I'm not confident about, but I have taken these spots before with those types of hands. But it sucks because those are hands that you can be called by and just be dominated by oftentimes.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I'm kind of not confident on if it's correct or not. But in terms of suited hands, also, I'm curious if that gives us an argument. I'm curious your thoughts on that. If we should be taking the lower suited connected hands where we're not as dominated by what we get called by, for example, 7-8 suited or something like that. Because if we're getting called with jack queen, we're never had 7-8, we're still never had, but we're oftentimes have 2 live cards with 7-8 suited compared to like jack queen suited.
Yeah, all good questions. I think your instincts were, pretty much exactly right. You could jam a few of those, like suited broadways in general. You can go for, except for the weakest, like queen 10 and jack 10 suited.
Mm-hmm.
You should go for the suited king 10 through king queen, queen jack suited, ace king off, ace queen off, ace 10 suited up to ace king suited. Some of it, sometimes you want to raise small with some of those too, just because suited hands will play better post flop.
Yeah.
And yeah, pairs, it's like eights and better, and sevens are kind of the indifferent
Damn,
one.
my lines are all right. All right, we're
Yeah,
in there.
so it was good. And then the bigger pocket pairs like queens plus, you want to go for a small raise.
Just get value.
Yeah, get value, and then you can raise like ace jack off and ace nine off small. Those can be your raise fold type of hands.
All right.
As for the suited connectors, you just want to throw those away.
7-8 suited and stuff like that. Okay.
Yeah, the biggest thing is a decent amount of the time when you get called, it's going to be a pair, and so even though 7-8 suited is going to be more live against ace queen than like a king queen or queen.
We're just going to find more flip spots than with the suited broadways.
Suited broadways, you'll find more flips, and you block your opponent's calling range better.
Okay, that makes sense. So that outweighs what my previous question was, and if okay, that makes sense.
Yep. Yeah. So good questions and pretty. I think even though I might be the solver guy, I think in this case your instincts are pretty much.
I've played 20 big blinds a lot.
Yeah,
a lot.
You find if you're gonna become a winning for the people who have become winning players without using a lot of the new tools and stuff, you kind of probably have found your way to a lot of the similar answers.
Yeah,
you know
exactly. Yeah, 100%.
So,
I mean, and I made a lot of errors to get to these answers. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, everyone has to though.
Yeah.
You probably. You've maybe made some type of errors, and then some other people are making errors like, oh, I'm going to 5-bet rip ace-4 suited against the guy who always has kings or aces here.
This is where I think it's important to, like, if you're not using solvers, to run hands off players who you think are either equally or better than you, because you just don't want people giving you, answers. What else could you have done there? You know what I mean? Like, this is where you grow.
It is, yeah. And I think,
constructive feedback is so important for becoming better.
It is. And if you face this raise and you jammed with ace-5 suited, like notice in this case we just want to open fold all the weak suited aces. Or if you jammed like pocket sixes or fives, it'd be easy to say, oh well, yeah, that was a good spot to try and pick up some chips. There was no ICM on the line, and in truth, it probably wasn't, unless you're just up against a guy who opens any two under the gun, which is usually pretty rare, but.
This is a great spot to really kind of help out. So did we talk about? So that's without ICM. So we've talked about with ICM and without ICM. Okay.
Yeah, I do have a couple. So now let's say it gets folded to us in the hijack. I did want to take a look at how, in that example when we're kind of close to the bubble, what our opening range is going to look like there, and.
Yeah. So from hijack. So this is interesting because as you get better, as I've gotten better, my range has tightened up here.
Yeah. And
from hijack. And remember, my range will progressively open up as we approach hijack to button positions here. Mm-hmm. I know that's kind of going without being said, but it's important to realize, like, my first initial thought was like ace-5 off into the muck from hijack.
Yep, definitely. And so actually, like, we're not going to be that much tighter. If it folds to us, we're not going to be that much tighter. Assuming, now, it would probably differ if all of the stacks behind us covered us. But in this specific example, we're going to say that it's a mixture of stacks and, maybe we cover a couple and a couple of them cover us. But so 20 big blinds in the hijack. I don't even know if I would do this, but the interesting thing is we can just open jam a few hands. And they're not...
Really? That surprises me.
And a couple of them
this
won't
is
surprise
without
you.
ICM or with ICM?
This is with. This
with
is the
ICM.
18. So yeah, without, we actually don't want to open rip anything.
Okay, that makes... So is the reason for that, before we get into the hands, just to not force showdown to keep equity?
Yeah, we are going to... Like, other people are going to need to fold more now.
Yeah.
And also, we are going to be able to call less. Like, there are hands where if we just raised, they could 3-bet jam and we have to fold. But then they have to fold to an open jam.
You've probably already studied this spot, so it's worthless for me to ask you what hands you would be. Actually, you know what? Let's go ahead and just ask it. What hands are you going to be open jamming here? Do you know what the solver already says here?
I do. And so I'll read what it says and I'll say what my instincts would have been.
Okay, that's good. I like that.
So the hands we want to open jam are ace queen off, ace jack off, king queen suited, king jack suited, pocket eights, pocket sevens, then ace 3 suited and ace deuce suited. what the hell?
Yeah, I just feel like when we get in called, we're just crushed.
We are.
But we're just getting so many better ace X's to fold.
We get a lot of ace X's to fold. And, we get a lot of small pocket pairs.
Is that worth picking up the however couple big blinds?
2.5 bigs. Apparently, but it's also a case where it's just barely worth it. So I think if you're in a tournament where you feel you have an edge over the field, you don't need to do this.
Yeah. And I think that like ace deuce and ace three specifically suited, I would be open folding to 3-bet jams.
Yeah. Yes, I like that a lot better, especially, if we're talking about our listeners in our Discord. Most of the events we're going to be playing are going to, we will have some very good players at the table, but most of the players aren't going to be 3-bet ripping a solver approved range against us. And so we can, maybe we just muck ace three and ace deuce suited, but like
that's tough to do. I think one thing I want to quick say on that before we move on is that I think if you consider yourself an amateur, I think maybe ripping these hands might be better for you, so you don't put yourself in a weird spot in unknown territory where you're uncomfortable. I think that as an amateur player, that might be the better play for you because you might just make too many errors post flop.
Yeah. And I think, ace queen off and pocket eights, those are more intuitive where I get it. I'm like, these are strong enough hands.
Yeah.
But also I don't really want to get jammed on with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I would always just be min raising the king queen suited, king jack suited, and folding to a jam.
King queen suited?
Yeah.
Open folding? God, that's painful.
With this
with ICM.
With ICM,
yeah. That makes sense.
I'm not looking to call off with 45% or something.
Yeah, you're right, 100%, because you're just not crushing anything with that hand. And it's like, I think that's another hand that kind of aligns with the ace-5 suited that I was talking about on the last part, where it's like people are just like, they'll 3-bet it and then call it off with hands like that.
Yeah.
It's very pretty, and sometimes, you have some very small time you have the best hand, but most of the time you're either flipping or dominated, so.
Yeah. Again, I will say king queen suited, and this is more of a general statement, not based on right now, but like, it is a better calling off hand, especially against people who know their range as well, because sometimes it's good to 3-bet jam stuff like king 10 suited, king jack suited, like king queen suited can dominate some stuff, but it has to be against a player who knows who either knows their stuff or who is just wide.
Okay.
So
I like it.
Cool. So we've talked a little bit about the pre-flop stuff here. We have a couple post-flop examples, and the solver GTO Wizard here, it does not offer us solutions on post-flop ICM specifically. So I think what we can talk about is more how we play 20 big blinds in general, and then we can make some suggestions on if we're close to the bubble or whatnot. But
okay, that sounds good. Before we get started on that, let's take a small break here. You're fired.
All right, so next I think let's talk about a hand or two where we're just talking 20 big blinds. Now we're not really factoring in ICM. We could maybe make a comment or two about how we would play a hand differently if there was
but
ICM.
Focusing on no ICM here, essentially meaning we're not nearing the money. There's no pay jumps. Mute that call. We're having a podcast right now.
It was muted. It was just so people know, one of my best friends just tried to give me a Facebook Messenger call,
and you gave him the salami.
Yeah, I just sent him to the rail.
Hit the showers, buddy.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sorry, back to it. So no ICM considerations here. Money, no pay jump, stuff like that doesn't matter. We're going to talk about playing post flop with 20 big blinds. Again, very important. You're going to find yourself at this big blind depth a lot. It's important before we start on this. One thing I want to emphasize is that you have 20 big blinds. You're not on fumes, even if you think it. Even if you had 50 big blinds the hand before and now you're down to 20 big blinds, just know that you are capable of of winning the tournament still, right?
Well, you and I would be. I don't know about everyone else.
Yeah,
I mean, if you're terrible.
Just relax, Wes. But it's just something important to take in consideration. This falls under the mindset thing. So, we're not really talking about, being on tilt and stuff here, but something to keep into consideration. 20 big blinds is still a very playable stack, and we're going to kind of talk about how different ways you can maneuver with that.
It is, and not to keep bringing up the Gladiator, but that was like the average stack for most of day 2 and day 3.
Honestly, I thought it would have been less.
At times it was less. Yeah. It would kind of go above, 17 to 25.
Okay. Okay.
And there are a lot of, the tournaments that have half-hour levels, maybe the 500s at the WSOP. There are a lot of tournaments where this will just be roughly an average stack. So you don't need to go crazy. But on the other hand, I think we will see that there are some hands where you should just be comfortable getting your chips in the middle with sort of what might seem like a medium strength hand.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so here we go. For this hand, we're going to say that the hijack opens and the big blind calls. Min raise, so 5.5 bigs in the pot. And we get a flop of 9-9-7 with 2 hearts and 1 diamond.
Okay, 9-7-7, 2 hearts, 1 diamond.
Did I say 9-9-7?
I think you did.
Yeah.
Maybe you did. I guess we'll hear it back, but I think you did.
I think I did.
Yeah.
That's annoying.
Anyways.
So 9-7-7, 2 hearts.
Yep.
And, big blind, there's an argument for leading here, but you should mostly check. We won't really get too much into that.
What are the blind depths of the big blind in hijack? Both just
20
assuming
effective.
20? Yeah.
Since we're not doing ICM, it doesn't really matter who has who covered.
Okay.
And we'll say hijack chooses to bet quarter pot, so 1.4 bigs. This is something that...
Yeah, I feel like I'm checking here almost always from the
big blind. Yeah. Agreed. Hijack can do a lot of betting. Maybe we'll want to check some medium strength hands or some hands without a heart, but can bet basically all the pairs.
I think it would be dependent on how clicky I think
the big blind
is, like what experience I've had with him, because this board is a dynamic board, right? So like there's a lot of bluffs he could be clicking with here. But then there's also some value he could be clicking with here, right?
There is, yeah. And it a lot of hands you can kind of mix, but you're much more incentivized to see bet a hand like King Jack of Spades if you know that your opponent doesn't check raise that much.
Right.
Because then you get to fold out all the hands that you could fold out anyways, but not get blown up. Whether your opponent has a 9 or has a straight draw, like you want to have a chance to get to showdown with a king high.
Yep.
But we'll say hijack chooses to bet
because king high can be the best hand here a lot of the time.
It is a lot of the time still. A good thing to keep in mind is from the big blind's perspective, pocket pairs aren't really in your range at all because from 20 big blinds,
you just be jamming them.
Yeah, 3-bet jam.
Okay. Let's talk about that for a second. What hands? If you're in the big blind, hijack opens. You have 20 big blinds. There's no ICM pressure. What's the bottom of your pairs?
I'm jamming all the pairs, but I might trap aces.
Okay, so deuces through kings.
Yep,
you're not trapping kings.
Probably not, just because it's such a classic thing to say, but
ace
magnets. Yeah, no, but there will be a reasonable amount of flops with an ace, and you can't, suddenly your hand is sort of a bluff catcher already.
Yeah.
And even if it's not, your opponent could have...
We're just avoid putting ourselves into a shitty situation.
You could miss a lot of value, too. Like, your opponent could call you off with ace-queen or just, like, miss the flop with ace-queen.
Okay.
So, kings I would still jam. I would jam ace-jack through ace-king, suited and unsuited.
Are we ever just 3-betting small here?
Maybe, but I would start doing that more at 20 bigs, or if we're in position.
Are we at 20 bigs?
Sorry, 25. God, I'm misclicking vocally.
It's all good. It's all good.
So if we were like 25, 30 bigs deep, I would have a much more of a small 3-bet size.
That's kind of the defining line. I like that. Okay.
Yeah. Think about it this way. Like if you're at, we've talked about how you want to size up your 3-bets when you're out of position.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we only have 20 big blinds to start with. Like, what sort of size are we going to use where our opponent thinks they have any fold equity if they jam?
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's just not really a size. Like, that's why I feel like when if someone's in this position and they 3-bet small from the big blind, it's just always like a massive hand, and like, because there aren't really any good bluff opportunities here. Like, if I would just flat with ace five suited,
Yep.
you know.
Yeah.
There are some other hands to jam, like Jack 10 suited, 10-9 suited.
Ace 5 suited's not a jam, though, with no ICM implication.
Yeah, probably not. It's probably pretty close, but...
Okay. I feel like you're going to run into a lot of people who disagree with that at the World Series of Poker.
You know, ironically, though, I think the absolute best players would agree.
I mean, no.
Because I'm looking at the chart here, but no, we can take a look at what the...
That's a fair assessment. However, you know what? You might just be right. I might just be overestimating. Again, maybe, like you said, it's just the best players may actually not do it. Although, like, I'm thinking of people like Espen, who I think would rip here, but maybe I'm just wrong.
It's very close. Ripping is very close to the same EV. So and honestly, like in the moment, I don't have these things memorized. I might do it too.
Yeah.
I like ripping that better than like ace 8 suited.
Okay, because we can make straights with both our cards.
And it's, we fold out more hands we dominate. Like our opponent isn't going to call off with, they could open ace 8 off, but they're not going to call it off kind of thing. Yeah, we can make more straights.
Yeah, we want ace 8 to fold if we have ace 5 suited and we're jamming.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to play this perfectly by any means. Like we will,
that kind of gives you more reason to jam ace 5 suited.
It does. So
anyways,
yeah. And then there's stuff like I'm, queen 10 suited, queen 9 suited, ace 7 off. Technically, we should jam these sometimes. I probably won't. I usually
ace 7 off.
Yeah, I'm literally that one. I'm just looking at the chart. I wouldn't even think to jam that in the moment.
Yeah, I'm not jamming it.
Yeah, me neither. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that I think in just about any tournament I'm playing in, I have a bit of an edge on the field. I don't want to take these extra 0.01 big blind spots all the time.
We're just looking for the best of the best, the high EV situations.
Exactly.
Okay.
And yeah, like I think I'll be able to navigate post flop better, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. That makes sense.
Now that we got on this tangent, should we just take a look at what hijack should call off with real quick?
Yeah, let's do it.
So big blind.
Wait, so you had already said all deuces. Okay, so just to kind of reiterate, since we went on a tangent. All pairs except for aces, which you're going to trap. Mm-hmm. Some suited broadways, king 10 and up.
No, just ace jack and up.
Ace jack
suited
and
unsuited.
So maybe queen jack suited. We're not jamming.
No, king queen. Sometimes, but
king queen suited, king 10 is suited. We're just flatting.
Just flatting.
Okay, king jack suited, flatting. King queen suited, maybe. Okay, and then every other sort of suited connector hands just flatting. Okay, okay, cool. So clarify.
A lot of flatting.
A lot of flatting.
If I know we're on a big tangent now, if big blind jams, now if we're in hijack seat, we're supposed to call off with pocket fives and better. Ace jack off and better, ace 9 suited and better, and king 10 suited and better, which I think
that's light.
It is, and I think in most situations I would find myself folding like king 10 and king jack suited and ace 9 suited.
Okay. So ace 10 suited up, king queen suited and up.
Yeah, and I might fold fives and then call with sixes and better.
Just one more hand to dominate.
Yeah, and I think
4 combos of hands to dominate.
Yeah, and this depends on the player, but I think most people are not correctly 3-bet jamming out of the blinds, especially the big blind where it's so easy to just flat.
We've kind of talked about this in previous episodes too.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
If I was playing in, a high roller, I was against tougher players, I would try and play as close to what the charts say as I could, but. Yeah, so let's take a look back at the actual what we were talking about. So the 7-7-9, 2 heart, 1 diamond flop. Big blind decides to check and hijack bets quarter pot. So here we are, and we're as the big blind. We can have a whole lot of hands here. We can have pair, trips, flush draw, straight draw.
As the big blind.
Yep.
Okay.
As a general statement, what would you, let's say your sevens, your nines, your open enders, gutter, what kind of
This
strategy
this is a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
There's a lot more complexity to it. So what am I going to do with these kind of hands is your question?
Yeah.
You know, I know we had talked about this briefly already, and I know that you had mentioned that we can be check raising nines. I do see a reason to get value, or that how we can get value by doing such things. However, I'm not going to be doing that with all my nines by any means. The nines that I would probably be check raising are like maybe just ace nine and then king nine. King nine maybe. It's like ace nine and then king nine maybe. I'd be flatting my queen nine, 10-9. And then hands that I'd like to kind of turn into a bluff here. There's a lot more hands, obviously. I'm not just going to list them all.
Of course.
But the hands that I think I would like to turn to a bluff on this are like 8-5 off.
Okay.
You
I
know
like it.
Yeah.
Because that's one where it's just a weak.
I don't care if I raise and then get blown off it.
Yeah.
So like 8-5 off, maybe 10 Jack O.
Okay.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Again, so hands I might be flatting here is like 8-10 with a heart. Hands like that are open ended.
Where you have a ton of equity.
Yeah. And the hands that I'm going to fold are like the no showdown value and also like gutters. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then I think like in terms of like flush draws, I might turn some flush draws into bluffs here as well. For example, like say I have like defend queen 5 of hearts.
Yep.
Something like queen 5 hearts, I think I would turn into a bluff here and just try and rep a 7. Maybe turn into a triple barrel if I have to. Well, it's hard to run 20 bigs, but
yeah. No, I like that a lot. I think the nice thing about a flush draw, especially if you have an overcard to the 9, is if you get ripped on, you're comfortable calling it off because it has more equity.
Yeah,
you have
I can still catch the queen.
Yeah, you have an overcard. You have hearts.
For example, if they have like 10s or jacks or ace 9 or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
They could even have. Now they could have a bigger flush draw, but they could also have a smaller one too. And so
so I think that kind of, man, people are just gonna you're giving this information away. Sheesh. No, but yeah, I think that's kind of my thoughts on what I'd be check raising and what I'd be calling with. As for a 7, I'm probably going to be check raising all 7s.
Yeah, I think it seems really bad to not get a 7 all in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if your opponent has a 9 or has 10s and let's say
or better.
Yeah, any over, but like the vulnerable hands that are good, and then suddenly some scare cards come out and you just check it down after that, or they fold the turn. That would be a shame. So I like just raising all 7s. 9s, yeah, it's kind of interesting. You can your opponent can have some 9s from the hijack, so definitely trying to get it in with ace 9,
jack 9 suited, queen 9 suited that I'm dominating if I raise with king 9 or ace 9.
Yep,
from the big blind, that is.
Yes, and you don't have enough. Like obviously, if you have 100 bigs, you're not looking to get it all in with a 9.
No,
but I think one of the most important takeaways here for people is to know, like, if you have 20 bigs, it's generally fine to get it in with top pair. Like maybe not if you're against under the gun.
Yeah.
And you have like, a 5 on 5-3 deuce, right?
Yeah,
that's a lot different.
Opponent dependent as well. Really take a second to think not only their position, but what kind of player are they? Like, is this someone whose range is wide enough from the hijack, or is he, withered old man who only plays aces?
Yeah. Exactly. Good consideration. I think here, I sort of agree. You can kind of go either way. When you have the medium 9s, you can sort of go either way. Like sort of how we talked about pre-flop. Do you want to play do you want to take these small spots and try to get all the chips in, or do you want to call and then trust your ability to outthink them after that and know where you're at?
Okay.
And so I think it's the sort of thing where maybe if I'm against a tough opponent, I try and get it in with a 9, or and if I'm against someone who's very straightforward, I just flat with the medium and weaker 9s.
Okay, I like it.
I like your bluff idea. I think, the weak gutters you can call or raise, those are better raises.
And just to be clear, I'm not jamming them.
yeah,
I'm going to be check raising them
like
at a smaller size too. I'm not, again, this is kind of, I'm trying to, I don't want to make it just a min click to where like, they're going to, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, so say he C bets, how much was in the pot? 4.5. And then he C bets
5.5 pre and they
5.5.
like 1 and
Yeah. He bets 1.5, we'll say, big blinds. I'd probably go like, I don't know.
4.5.
I would say, 4.5, something like that. Yeah. And then just fold to any sort of
additional raise.
Any additional raises from there. And then I'm curious though. So if it's just say it's just 5-8 off, and then I check raise with a hand like that, and I get called. Right. What hands am I going to double barrel with then? Like, would we be jamming turn? Do we have the 1-to-1 SPR at that point if we get called?
Even if we do, we probably don't want to jam. Just because, like, we can bet third again and then...
Well, how about this? Say it's 9-7-7, 2 hearts, 1 diamond. Say I check raise the 5-8 of diamonds, and then the turn comes a deuce of diamonds.
Yeah. Well, that seems like a good situation. So, yeah, that's one where you could jam or you could
bet call off.
It sucks, though, because you're no good, so you have to...
Yeah, but oh god, see, it's cringy. I'd rather just try and get my opponent to fold or realize equity, but if I get called, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Let's say it's an offsuit deuce, just a complete break.
Yeah.
So 8-5, it doesn't even matter. Let's just say 8-5 of diamonds or offsuit.
I mean, honestly, I'm probably, like, as much as I hate to say this, I'm probably just going to give up. Yeah, because my goal then at this point is, and I'm curious what the solver says, but I want to maintain fold equity for my future jams at that point.
Yeah, it's gross. And this
Does the solver say to continue barreling?
It says you can do you can check or bet small, and by bet small it means like quarter pot again.
How much would be in the pot at this point? So 4.5, 9. So is that 13.5? 14.5?
14.5. Yeah, based on the solver sizing of the check raise, it would be like 13.8.
So bet like 3.5.
Yeah. Doesn't it? This is where I get messed up, because doesn't it just feel like you're never getting a fold? If they call the check raise on the flop, like how do they fold the turn?
Yeah, I mean, this is just solver type stuff. Again, assuming we're playing against perfect poker, I just don't like it. I'm probably going to give up here and just try and find better spots at this point.
Yeah. And and that's fine too. That's kind of like an equal EV. Here's the nice thing about betting quarter pot in this. So just a reminder, we're looking at a spot where it's 9-7-7, 2 hearts. And then the turn is just an offsuit deuce, and we have 8-5. Right?
And we're in the big blind, and the hijack opened.
Yep, we check raise small on the flop. If we bet again on the turn, our opponent should have floated the flop with like some king high backdoor diamonds or king high queen high with 1 heart type of thing, and that's actually a lot more combos. It's a lot of queen jack, king 10, queen 10. And so those all should fold to the quarter pot. They're actually supposed to call again with all their jack 10s. I think people are going to start folding out jack 10 for sure. And so that is like, if you think about it, if you bet quarter pot on the turn, you only need to win the pot like, a fifth of the time?
To make it profitable. Yeah.
And so it's like, well,
how sticky is my opponent?
Yeah, like it'll work again. The thing that sucks is they mostly will not fold, right?
Yeah,
and that's where it sucks. You're like, oh, I have 8 high and I have 10 bigs, and we're on the river.
But if they fold 1 out of 5 times, it's profitable,
right? And so this is the thing where on the flop you can kind of decide: am I just gonna call this bet and try and hit a gutter or maybe bluff the river?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the strategy too is you can call the flop with this sort of hand, and then if they check the turn, you've kind of found out, not only do you get another free card, but you find out where you're at, right?
I like my double and triple barrels to have a little bit more equity.
Sure.
I mean, sometimes you can do the pure air, and I've been there. And that's typically if I'm trying to exploit my opponent because I think they're going to overfold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's again, yeah, it's not like you have to go one way or the other here.
Okay.
It is good to get into these like deep dives of, okay, we did this on the flop. How do we?
What's next?
Yeah,
And I think a lot of people fail to think like, hey, I made this play. Oh, wait, I didn't consider what the next step is, and that's very important. I know that's kind of drilled into players as they are trying to learn. It's like you have to think ahead in poker. You have to think about what you're going to do on what streets, depending on what cards come out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think as far as the flop action, I think we kind of went through it. If we're looking at what the solver says, a lot of the like 10-8, a lot of the straight draws overall will benefit from either raising or calling. Flush draws better to raise.
This has been super refreshing for me too, and just kind of like keeping it fresh in the brain, essentially. These are spots, again, that we run into more frequently than probably any other spots in tournaments because we're at 20 big blinds. Not necessarily, 9-7-7, but I'm just saying playing this stack depth and what kind of hands we should check raise. Let's take a quick left turn before we start wrapping things up. What's the bottom of our defending range in the big blind? Did we already cover that?
So just pre-flop here?
Yeah, just what's the bottom of our defending range? So what hands? What hands are we folding essentially? To a hijack open.
So we are folding no suited cards. So we call it 7 deuce off, 3 deuce off.
That logically makes sense to me.
The ones we fold are a lot of the deuce X, like jack deuce off and worse, and then jack 3 to 7-3 off, 10-4 to 8-4.
I might even fold queen deuce off. King deuce probably not, but queen deuce I might.
Yeah, it's
same thing.
Close. Having a king is like you have one higher card.
Right.
It's
tiny,
it's
not
but
huge,
it makes
right?
Yeah. You don't want to fold a lot here. And I should clarify, if your opponent comes out and raises the 2.8x, you want to fold a lot more.
Yeah.
But if we're facing a normal min raise here, we can call with like 7-4 off, 10-6 off, jack 5 off, like some pretty raggedy hands here.
So I remember I was playing an MSPT with Angela Jordison.
Yeah.
And we were talking about ranges for something. I don't remember what it was exactly, but I think it was Riverside or Grand Falls. I don't remember. Anyways, it was last year. And
I remember that.
She brought up, she's like, I'm probably folding the shit triangle here. And I'd never heard of it determined as that.
That's such a good way to say it.
The shit triangle is essentially, if you're looking at the what do they call this? The
pre-flop range chart.
The pre-flop range chart, where it shows all the hands. And then the shit triangle is essentially the bottom left corner to the right corner going up to the middle, making a triangle. Because it's where all the worst hands reside on the chart.
Yeah, it's all the offsuit, like
non-connected,
non-ace high, king high type of hands.
I can see there's a couple of shit.
It's more like an upside down pot, because there's the handle of the 5 deuce, 4 deuce, 3 deuce.
In
off.
this specific scenario, yeah.
But yeah, I think it's
like the upside down Big Dipper or Little Dipper.
Yes, it is. Yeah, so defend those big blinds pretty wide. I think that's a good takeaway too.
Okay.
You're investing one big blind.
I think that's where people will have the most questions is like, what should I be calling here? What should I not? The question is, it looks like most of your hands you should be defending here. Mm-hmm. Raising not a large portion, calling them mostly, and then folding a good chunk of just the absolute nut low hands.
Yep.
The shit triangle hands.
I'm going to start using that. So
that was pretty good.
That was good. One more takeaway I have here is you can dive into this stuff forever. Like we just did about an hour, and I feel like we barely covered anything.
No, there's so much more we could go to just in these specific scenarios. And just imagine if we added another flop or something, or a different position,
different flop,
just
different
so you guys
flop
know,
action.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, and so this is why poker. No human will ever be GTO.
You can't memorize all this stuff. Our brains just literally aren't capable of it.
Yeah. So, take away, sort of extrapolate from things you find. Obviously, if you're going out to the series, and I can't recommend more, like study, whether it's on GTO Wizard, whether it's just with friends, however you want to do it, like these maybe 15 to 30 big blind
Listen
stacks.
to our WSOP prep podcasts.
Listen to all our podcasts.
Yeah, listen to all of
obviously.
them for sure.
Yeah, like take time, look into this stuff. Just practice, here's a little exercise is think of you defend the big blind and think of difficult situations that you could be put in and try and logically figure out what you would do in those. And then if you don't know, ask someone who you think is more experienced than you.
That's great. And then that'll help you. Yeah. And even if you don't run into this specific scenario, the 9772 heartboard, studying this spot will help you. It will help you in other scenarios on different flops, just naturally. Even if you don't come into this exact scenario, you'll build a better understanding of what you could do in other spots as well.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the sort of thing where it's like, oh, well, if the lower the cards are, the more it favors my range. The higher the cards are, the more it favors the in position. Usually,
another analogy for you: it's like bicep, tricep, right? You work one muscle group, but it still builds the other muscle group.
Does it?
It does.
Yeah.
That's why you chest tris, things like that, backs and buys. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you don't need to focus on them because it works those other areas. Another not lower to medium type analogy, but we're getting places. I got to practice my analogies to get better at them.
You should. I wonder if GTO Wizard has any analogies, any solved analogies.
Well, I appreciate you keeping me in line and telling me I played my analogies bad.
I think you told yourself that one.
Yeah, I did.
The plain one earlier, it made sense,
This one kind of does. All right, we're not getting into this, Wes. I'm over it. Let's move on, wrap this thing up. We are now approaching 150 members in our Discord. It's blowing up. We have people talking hands every day. We got people asking questions. We got people giving ideas on podcast suggestions or episode suggestions, feedback. I would love to invite anyone who's not already in there to to join the discussions, help yourself become a better player by dropping hands in the hand history review section. To join the Discord is completely free. You just hop in there, or actually go out to my Twitter at Deuce Nukem and click my top link. It's pinned on there, and you can just you click that. It's the link to the Discord. Get free access and just come say hi. And then also we do giveaways. We just did a coaching giveaway to a couple members, which we'll be getting into here soon. And I think we'll just continue to do giveaways. We got merch on the way. We'll be doing giveaways for that. I think that's it on the Discord topic. Again, we do have a bunch of new types of content on the way that we are currently working and grinding on. Wes, anything else?
I think you said it all there. Yeah, a lot more members, a lot more. Literally every day we have discussions about, I think, both strategy and just general poker stuff.
And even if you take it, if you just hop in whenever you have some free time and want to brush up a little bit, say you're about to play a tournament, hop in there and just read a couple hands, and that'll help refreshing you a little bit.
Yeah, going back to what I said about thinking about difficult spots as in practice, think about them and just post them in the hand review section.
Yeah, it's like building muscles.
Yeah, whether it's one of the other members or. God damn it. That is true, though. It is muscle memory.
Yeah.
Just thinking through these spots and developing sort of a muscle memory that's based on logic, but so you're not having to think through all this stuff in real time.
Okay. All right, Wes. Another incredible topic here, conversation, whatever it is.
Yeah, the poker was good too.
Yeah, the poker was good. I look forward to really drilling through this new series, WSOP Prep. I look forward to all you guys hearing it. Make sure, like Wes said at the beginning of this episode, start prepping now. Don't prep right beforehand. Get your skills strong and just be as prepared as possible so we can make as much money as possible.
Yeah. Play me heads up for thousands of dollars for practice, people. That's what you meant, right?
On that note, we'll go ahead and wrap this episode up.
All right.
Guys, have a wonderful day, night, morning. I know Wes hates when I say all that, but too bad. We'll talk to you next time.
What about afternoon?